Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today I am going to do a review of The President is Missing by James Patterson and Bill Clinton. And I had no plan to read this book, none whatsoever. My friend and I, my best friend Tanya and I, we used to read a lot of James Patterson books back in the day. I started reading, I think it was like Kiss the Girls, Along Came a Spider, back when James Patterson was actually writing his own books. So I wasn't really excited about reading this book, but every time I would go to the grocery store or the Target or the Walmart or wherever, I would see it and I was like, I wonder if this is different. And if you know anything about James Patterson now, he always co-writes his books with somebody else who is probably the one that's writing it. With this team of people, you can go research how James Patterson writes his books now. It's very interesting, but so for a long time, I haven't read any of his books, or I'll start a book of his, and then I'm just kind of lose interest. And I can remember back in the day, my friend and I, honest to God, every time one of his books would come out, we were the first ones to get it, right? And that's just not the case today. I'm just not super, interested in his books, and I feel like they're very formulated. Every chapter is a page and a half, and they're all 291 chapters or something. They just aren't for me, right? But knowing that he had written this with a former president, and the whole idea was the president is missing, and why is he missing, and all this kind of stuff, I was like, I think that I'm gonna read this book, And so I wanted to listen to it on Audible, so I listened to it on Audible. I've never listened to a James Patterson book on Audible. And, oh, this is how I got started reading it, actually, or how I got interested in it. I was at the grocery store with Tanya, and I was looking through it, and the chapters were 10 to 15 pages long, small print. It wasn't a typical James Patterson book. And I was like, okay, so is this going to be something different than what he's written in the past? And if it is, maybe I can get behind that. So I got home that night. I was thinking about what I was going to do for Booktubeathon. This was the one and only book that I read for Booktubeathon. And I thought, this is a perfect book. this is going to be the book that I'm going to read while I'm wearing a hat. And I did. So anyway, I'm going to go in here right now and talk about The President is Missing by James Patterson and Bill Clinton. Oh, and David Ellis, who's the ghostwriter. So maybe David Ellis is the one that wrote the whole book. I don't know. I didn't see it on the front. It says a novel by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. But when you go in here to the Goodreads, it says by Bill Clinton, James Patterson, and David Ellis. And in parentheses, it says ghostwriter. I'm not real big on ghostwriters for fictional books, okay? That's just my shit. I don't know why we needed to have ghostwriter in there, why it couldn't just say Bill Clinton, James Patterson, and David Ellis. That's just my 2 cents about that. I'm not real big on, I think ghostwriter, this is so beside the point, but I think ghostwriters for fictional novels is somebody that just signs their name onto a fashion label and they have absolutely nothing to do with designing the clothes, and they come out there and they go, it's my clothes. No, it's not. You didn't have anything to do with the creative process. So anyway, the book, which came out June 4th of 2018, the Kindle edition is 513 pages long, and it currently has 21,284 ratings, 2,772 reviews, with an average of 3.98. Now, that's interesting because I will tell you that I rated this book a 4 on Goodreads. I probably would give it, an 86% for what it is. And I almost kind of as I was getting ready to because I always write on Goodreads, my review will be up on my BookTube channel. If you follow my reviews, you'll know that. But I was thinking about just automatically giving it a 5 because it was very exciting to read. So, what's interesting about this book is that it's hard if you know a lot about the politics that are going on in the United States currently and other parts of the world, but really the other parts of the world that affect the United States. It's hard to read this book and not wonder, what's the intention behind this book, if that makes sense. So what it's about is, I don't even know how, should I read you guys the description? I'll read you guys the description and then I'll give you my 2 cents of what the book is about, because this is a spoiler-free review. President Bill Clinton and best-selling novelist James Patterson have written a spellbinding thriller, The President is Missing. Also with David Ellis, who isn't mentioned in the topic. As the novel opens, a threat looms. Enemies are planning an attack of unprecedented scale on America. Uncertainty and fear grip Washington. There are whispers of cyber terror and espionage and a traitor in the cabinet. The president himself becomes a suspect and then goes missing. Set in real time over the course of 3 days, The President is Missing is one of the most dramatic thrillers in decades, and it could all really happen. The President is Missing is Bill Clinton and James Patterson's totally authentic and spellbinding thriller. Well, I questioned a lot if it could really happen. I will say that. If it could really happen, I think it's pretty scary being in the United States, how something like this would happen, and there aren't safeguards around it. I will say that. But what they don't talk about in that is that when it starts, the president is before a congressional hearing, okay, for impeachment. So that's very interesting. And why, you might ask, is he before a congressional hearing for impeachment? Because he has had private conversations with somebody that is very much like Bin Laden, except he's not a religious, he doesn't have any religious affiliations. They're very careful writing this book that, like, if they kind of like glimpsed somebody, they would say like, oh, they have no religious affiliations or anything like that. They were very careful in the book. But he's before a congressional hearing that they could possibly impeach him because of that, and also having a relationship supposedly that this guy hid behind Russia. So Russia is woven a lot through this book. A lot, okay? So when you look at current events that are going on in politics today, it's hard to be like, well, when did you write this book? 3 years ago? I mean, or are you writing it now, like 6 months ago? Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're reading it, it reads very much like current events. That being said, it's very, I'm not big into political espionage, like the Jason Bourne novels and all that kind of stuff. My uncle loved those books, you know, and The Hunt for Red October back in the day. That's just never been my thing. But this was really good, and it was kind of like a dumbed down version of a political espionage novel. But I will say this, not dumbed down enough that it isn't realistic, because it is. And one of the things I loved about this was that I remembered while reading it, like James Patterson back in the day did really wonderful character development. And in this novel, like, the characters are really developed well. Like, you get to know a lot about the president, you get to know a lot about his family, and things like that. It's very interesting when you're reading it. And there's like 6 people that he trusts. I don't want to tell too much about it, but you get to know a lot about them. One of the guys that's like the cyber terrorist, you get to know a lot about this person. There's just so much that goes on, and you even get to see it, okay, from the point of view of the terrorist. And that's interesting as well. I didn't expect that when I went into the novel. And the thing is, if you're looking for an audiobook, I would highly recommend this. And you guys know I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But it's narrated by Dennis Quaid. There's like 3 people, I think, that narrated it. And the narration is fantastic. And in fact, I don't want to ruin too much if you're going to listen to an audible, but you learn a lot about an assassin, and there's music that is woven through that is consistent with the assassin's story. And it's and that's right kind of from the beginning, so I'm not ruining that for you. But it's very interesting how they weave it all together, and like the music kind of plays in. It's like they play like classical music, and it's like classical music that is referenced in the book. And it really plays well into the audio version of the book. I was really like, I mean, I was kind of sad it was over, and I was kind of hoping there would be like a follow-up, a sequel to this, of what happens now. But there are some moments, like there are some like nail-biting moments, honestly, where you're like, what is going to happen? Like, is this like, are they gonna, you know, figure this out? I mean, it is one of those kind of novels. It is a thriller through and through. It's very, very good, and it's very well done. I will say that. Like in his books in the past, I got so bored. I just was like, you know, I mean, not his original books, but like in the last, I don't know, 10 years, I've just been like, I cannot get down with him. And I know, like, some people love him. People respond to me all the time when I say something about him. They're like, hey, I know you don't like him, but like, I love James Patterson. If you love James Patterson, I think you will really love this novel. Like, really, really love it, because it is well done. And I think that had I not known that it was a James Patterson, Bill Clinton, David Ellis novel, and I just saw it and I read it, I think, like, if this was just by, like, some new-coming debut author, I think, like, it would even, I don't know, it wouldn't get the attention it's getting because of James Patterson, obviously, but I think it would be an interesting point of view because it reads so differently than anything we've ever seen before. I think the fact that Bill Clinton his name is on it gives legitimacy to it, because when you're reading the book, you kind of wonder, like, what parts is Bill Clinton writing, or what ideas is he giving, because you do see a lot inside to the life of the president, and like the Oval Office, and where he meets with people, and like things we just wouldn't know regularly, but like the president would know. Like if he was going to have a private meeting with somebody, like how that would occur and where it would go, and all this kind of stuff. I will say this. there's like this huge like thing about like you gotta figure out something in the book. I like figured it out way early. That was the only thing. It worked well with the novel. I just wish that part of it would have been kind of hidden a little bit more. But other than that, I thought it was good. It was a great read. It's a great summer read. It's a great winter read. It's a really enjoyable book. As a thriller, I mean, when you sit back as, you know, living in the United States, it's rather scary to think this could happen one day. So anyway, I gave it about an 86%. I gave it a B. I could have easily, I mean, if all the reviews that I did were all about thrillers, I would have easily given it an A. I thought it was really good. I think it's enjoyable for anybody. Somebody commented on my video yesterday and they said, after hearing what you have to say, I'm going back to the store to get The President is Missing. If you like thrillers, you'll love this book. So anyway, there's my review for The President is Missing. I have reviewed every book this year that I have read, which isn't a lot, but I've done it. So, all right, you guys, I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.